this week's episode, we're going to finish building and painting that Blood and Plunder Sloop. So, in the last episode, we spent a lot of time on the light effects on the sloop. And there's definitely going to be that component as well in this episode. But I definitely want to focus on the construction of the sails, rigging, and how I painted the pirate symbol on the flag. And I also put together a crew and put light effects on them as well. So we're going to cover all that in this episode and kind of just round up and finish this project off. Best thing to do is just take a look at it. Let's take a look at the finished project. So I'm going to kind of back it up here so you can see all of it. So I'm really happy how this turned out. You can see we've got light effects carrying off into the sails. We got our pirate flag up here, working out pretty good. And then we got our crew. Let me see if I can get that in the picture there. You can see we've added light effects to the crew as well. So this kind of finishes it all together. Now, when you get this plastic sloop in the 2-player starter set, you can actually buy the ship separately as well. It doesn't have any sails. So in this episode, I show you how to make these particular types of sails. And it doesn't have a flag. You have to make that as well. And you don't have rigging either. So you have to, like all the masts and everything are on there, but you have to get some rigging. And I just used a combination of the elastic rigging and some string, really. Anyway, so we're going to cover all that in this episode. All right, so I'll put that aside. Before we get down to the table, I just want to remind everybody about the Summer of Plunder that's going on. We are currently in week 3. Now, I don't have the results of how we finished in week 2, but as of when I filmed this video, the Spanish were ahead by, like 100 points. So we can't let the Spanish win. So make sure and I encourage you to play for the English and help us overtake the Spanish Empire. But anyways, I just wanted to remind you of the scenario this week. The scenario is keep your eyes peeled. I just got it over here. Play a scenario at night. This is a perfect ship for it. Using the caught unaware scenario rules. So, and if you're playing oak and iron, you have to use 100% of the fog tokens from the core box. And then you can get your extra points that you're trying to get to add to your faction. All right, so I'm going to put the link to the Blood and Pigment page down below in the description. And on there, they'll have details about the Summer of Plunder and the entry forms for entering your games. So that's pretty much it. If you guys like what we're doing here on the Plunder Den, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plunder Den and get first-hand information when I start these kind of projects. All right, everyone, let's get down to the table. Let's finish that sloop. Let's finish that painting and crafting of it. So I figured I'd start off by showing you some of the things I used to build my the minis for the ship here, my crew. So this is the box of plunder. I'm not going to open this one up. I already have one opened, and I just used it to get I wanted to make some pressed men, so essentially cannon crew. And then I used the torsos and bodies of the sailors. You can see I got some of the pieces of the cannon crew on there. Just wanted to have some pressed men, a couple sailors with some pikes. And I got one of the variations of Blackbeard, just to kind of have a small little force on here. I'm not going to do a full-on army, just enough to fill out the ship. I'm just showing you all the guys I assembled. I've in a previous episode I showed you how to assemble these guys. I just have pre-built them already, so we're not wasting time spending on something I've already covered. But just showing you, I just randomly built those guys. And then I'm going to paint them matte black. So normally I would paint them a gray or primer, but I'm going to prime them with matte black from Army Painter. So you can see I've covered them all. And we're just going to kind of take a look at a few of these pieces here. I did all the cannons, assembled all the cannons, and also painted them matte black. It's just a good base to start off if you're doing light effects. And then you can see there's a lantern back there as well that's left over from the first episode that I'm going to put on the top sail. And then these are all the bits for building the mast and of the ship. And this is just kind of the instructions. So it's kind of, I mean, so just kind of like, pretty basic instructions here. The Blood and Pigment channel did a pretty good job of showing you how to build that top sails or the mast if you want to. So I decided to build the Bermuda sloop. I wanted to get that top sail on there. So I'm going to use all the pieces that come in the box. Now you could use do the Blanda, sloop, and it doesn't have that. And I'm just going to use Tester's model glue. So I got that bottle there, right there, just so they dry and straight. So I just kind of propped it up there because I wanted to hover over top of the light, not sit on the light. So I kind of just let it dry that way. And then I covered all the other pieces with more matte black paint, just to cover off everything else. So you can see I kind of left some things bare just to glue them together before I put the glue on. And then I decided to put the lantern in next, and I used super glue to glue that on. You can't really, it's kind of blurry in the screen here. But anyways, I glued it up at the top there. Because I want to create light effects through the sails and the top into the flag. And a lot of them put lights up there if they're climbing up there at nighttime to fix sails or rigging or whatever. So I wanted to have that lantern up there. So this is after everything is glued together and everything is primed with the black paint. Now that's Army Painter again, matte black. And now I'm going to move to super gluing the entire mast in. So I'm not going to do a rigging transportable ship. I'm just going to glue this right in and just make it a permanent location. I'm going to use super glue though, so it doesn't move around a lot. So that took probably a day to dry 100%. I always let it go 24 hours so it's super, super solid before I start messing around with other things on it. So I like to make my sails by cutting cardstock. I'll have a lot of pre-made ones from all the ships that I've already built. This is from a previous sloop, so I already had them. And they're just kind of like templates that I make. So I've kind of cut them out of cardstock, measured them out nice. Now you could get these on the main Firelock Games page. They have measurements for the sails for these ships. But I like to alter them and change them, so I like to cut out my own cardboard templates. And then what I'm going to do is trace it out on this fabric. Now the fabric I get from Walmart, really cheap, pre-cut fabric. It's almost see-through, it's so cheap. But it's perfect for putting craft paint through. And so essentially this is what I do. I kind of use my rulers and make sure my lines are straight. And then I just kind of trace everything out on here. And I'm just showing you I made the flag by doing 2 inches by 2 inches, and make sure you double it up so 4 inches because you're going to fold that over, right, to make the flag. So then I usually use 3 different types of size dowels. One of them to match the part that's going to sit on the ship, and then the other 2 parts to make waves in the sail. And then the 2 flat ones, I'm just going to use this tote lid, which is slippery. If you get some tote lids, they have a little bit of texture on one side and really slippery on the other side. I used a little texture just so it doesn't look completely smooth. And then I covered it with black craft paint. This is Folk Art black craft paint. And you can see I've covered everything on here. I did the billowed sail on the ball. That's a kid's ball. And then I let that dry for a day, actually. And then I flipped it over. I peeled them off. And now I'm going to paint the insides. I trimmed up the edges too, just to trim it up a little bit with a pair of scissors. Just because you got little threads hanging out. My one pirate ship, I just left it because it looked like ratty sails, which is kind of cool. But I actually decided I wanted to cut these a little bit cleaner. So then I just hit with black craft paint on the reverse side. And that makes them solid. Now if you want to make them more solid, just add a little PVA glue. And you're going to be fine. So I just showed you I have the elastic bands. I have some left over from some of my other ship builds. I'm wondering if you could get that just directly from Firelocks. I never asked, but I think you probably could just get some of that rigging. And then I also used some thread. So I'm just showing you how I tied it on. I tied 2 to the front and then 2 to the sides. I didn't go crazy. And then I tied these ones here. I essentially tied the one to the top and then tied another one in the middle to make that little kind of loop on the top there. And then you can see that I have I kind of add super glue to where all the knots are. This is just to add extra protection. You don't really have to, but I don't want any of these knots to come out or come loose. So I like to add a little bit of super glue on the knot. Then once that dries, those knots are not going anywhere. It's a permanent resident. And then you don't have to worry about anything untangling. You can be a little more abusive with things and they're not going to fall apart. So then I'm going to look at my sails. So I'm kind of measured it back over there again, and I realized I was a little bit off. That's okay. I just trimmed it off. It's okay to be a little bit big instead of a little bit small. So I'm kind of deciding the light effects that I'm going to do on these sails. So we're going to paint them before we stick them on. It's really hard to paint the sails once you put it on the ship. So we're going to paint it before we do that. So I've kind of decided to hit the bottom first, and this is the main, like, what do they call it, a gaff sail on the back. And I'm just hitting this real brown where the start of the light's going to be. So I start with my dark brown tones, similar to the way I painted the ship. It's really the same color scheme, so everything should look the same. The light source would make things look different. It would just look the same. So then I added those on there. You can see in strategic places where the lamp is going to touch. So I kind of keep referencing. I have the ship up there to reference where the light's going to be from where my lanterns are. And that's kind of how I decided to add where the color is. Now, of course, you got to do both sides. And some of these, like the big gaff sail and 2 front sails, will definitely have light on both sides. There'll be a little bit on the flag on both sides. But on that billowed sail, top sail, there'll be less on the front because there'll be more in the dark than on the back, which is actually facing right to the lamp, right? So that's what I'm just trying to illustrate there. I decided to add some red stripes on there. That's just Dragon Red by Army Painter. And I used the widths of that brush, so that way I can keep a straight line. I didn't make it wider or smaller than that, just the same width, so I get straight lines. And just kind of measure them out. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to use the bark brown to actually lighten it up. So that's the next color in the stage of colors, just to get kind of a slow, subtle light. It kind of fades off as it goes away from the main light source. And then we're going to go to Pablo. Again, this is what I've used before to brighten everything up. And this is the next color in the step. So this is after I've done. I didn't really show that. But really, I just kind of work it in with my brush, that same brush that I used to paint the little stripes. And I'm just kind of moving on to now Fire Lizard and this dynamic yellow. I can never say that one right. But anyways, those are the brighter 2 colors that I'm going to add to all this as well. Again, just kind of brighter to the closest point where the lamp would hit, and then just kind of fade off. So I'm kind of showing that here. And that's what I'm just really illustrating. I'm just kind of, I figured I'd stop here for a little bit just to show you. So you can see you just dump the paint right in the corner where the brightest spot is, and then just kind of pull it out, keep working it again. If it gets too bright, bring some of the dark color back in, and just go back and forth until you get a nice subtle gradient. It moves off from light to dark. So I kind of hit on all those, and we're pretty well done the sails paint job now. So that's just a sewing needle, and this is some standard black thread that I got from Michael's. And I'm really just going to poke holes into here with that needle. It's fabric with craft paint on it, so it's not going to rip. I'm just going to tie these on to this to the rigging that I've already put on. So I decided to use thread because when you tighten it, it tightens really, it tightens better anyways than if I used that other stuff that comes, the spring one, rigging. The thread tightens tighter to the actual rigging itself. And then again, same story as last time, super glue on there to finish it off. So I started off with the 2 front sails, then moved to the gaff sail in the back, and the final sail I put on, which actually I hot glued on, was the billowed sail. I didn't actually even sew that one on at all, just hit it with some hot glue. So now we're going to go and touch up all the masts. So I wanted to kind of have everything put together before I did the final paint scheme on all the masts and everything, just so I know where everything's located, where the colors are on the sail. Just makes it easier to finish the paint job. So I'm moving to the real brown, same as before. And we're going to start with that color first, and then we're going to move to the bark brown. So similar to the sails and the base of the ship, all the same colors, same technique. Just wanted to build and assemble everything. This kind of put everything in a certain order so I can paint it effectively. So now I'm just going to go back and hit those browns into where the light sources are and start to build up that gradient. So this is after I've finished those 2 colors, and I'm just kind of showing you what it looks like. You can see I've got that bark brown's a little bit lighter and pulling away. The bottom of that mass is right up against the lamp. And then we're going to move to the Pablo, Fire Lizard, and Dynamic Yellow. I'm not going to show too much of this. I just wanted you to know that I'm going to use the same colors. And same thing, just brightest, closest to the lamp. So now we're going to paint freehand this flag. And I kind of wanted to show you how I put the skull and crossbones on a pirate flag. So really I just get my fine brush here, and I kind of just look for the center, make 2 lines, one for the top of the skull, one for the chin of the skull, and then I make an X on the bottom. And that really is your 2 leg bones, or whatever they are, the 2 bones on the crossbones on the bottom. And I just kind of cross them out, and then kind of make it wider on the top, because that's the top of the skull, and narrow it down as you get closer to the chin. And this gives you your kind of a nice skull look to it. I decided I wanted to make it a little bit wider. Now it's okay because we're going to fill this in pretty well all white, so it's okay if you make a little bit of errors. You can kind of go back and retouch it up a few times, and that's pretty much what you got there. So then I just put little bulbs on the ends of these. Those are kind of like the end of the bones. Again, you can go back and touch it up with black or whatever you want to clean it up a little bit, but I just like to do it that way. And then usually I'll just put in the eyes, just basically. I decided I made that one eye too low, but I can fix it when I paint it black. And then I just kind of fill in the rest with white paint. I don't put the mouth in quite yet. So this is after I put all the white paint on it. You can see I just got the nose and 2 eyes, but they're too small. So I'm going to add some black paint and go back and just kind of fill it in a little bit more and darken that up a bit. This is where you get a chance to fix up any errors that you made on the bottom, top, wherever you want, and make the shape a little bit better. The mouse is just a straight line across, kind of copying the Firelock Games symbol, and just kind of like stitch marks to make it look like teeth. I like the way the symbol is. So that's pretty much it. So then I'm going to use some Sand Golem. That's the color of speed paint. And some Skeleton Horde by like a Citadel paint. And we're going to add some colors to the flag. And I just kind of, so I didn't want to leave it bright white on the bone and crossbones, right? And then I kind of also use it to kind of blend the colors better by putting that speed paint over top of it. So now we're going to move to our lovely crew and cannons that we're going to paint up to add to our ship. So our ship's paint job is pretty well done. So I'm just going to move to like this lead head metal here, Games Workshop, and Agrax Earthshader wash. And then I'm just going to hit all the metallics on there. That's the first thing I do. Because you just want to add, you'll still be able to see parts of the metallic. And I always add those in and then add the wash on top. So that's after I've done them, and I'm just kind of showing you. So we're going to kind of focus on this one mini, even though I'm going to paint them all at the same time. We'll just kind of show, he's going to be my sample mini that we're going to show. So using craft paint, yeah, I'm using real brown. Again, want to keep some of the same undertones that are on the ship. That same glow from the lamp would be the same on the guys as well. So I'm just showing you I'm going to add where I'm going to add it. You can't really see the real brown too well, and I kind of cover the entire miniature, not entirely, but because I still want to keep some of the black undertones. But for the most part, the deck at the bottom, everything, just kind of added that real brown to. As we move to the colors, there'll be less and less of each color and more focused on one part of the miniature. So now I'm just going to show you how to do all the miniatures. So that same guy, we're going to move on to, I'm going to move to a miniature paint. Fur brown looks a lot like bark brown, the craft paints. It's a very similar, comparable color to it. But I want to, because I'm doing miniatures, I want to go a little bit now into the miniature paints. So same thing, got my little square brush here. And it's not my best square brush, but it's good for just like dry brushing and stuff like that, right? Just kind of adding a little bit of color. And it's okay if I blobbed it a little bit too heavy on there. I'm just going to pull it off. There's enough paint on the miniature now that I can spread it out. And fill in some of those mistake I made. But anyways, you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just brightening it on one side. And this is kind of where the lamp is going to be facing. It's going to be hitting that side of this fine gentleman here. We're just going to put those basic undertones. Now you want to wrap it a little bit around because, again, we're causing that gradient, right? We want it to carry over to the other side of the miniature as well. So it's not a stark change, but a slow contrast change from really light to really dark on the reverse side. Just to try to help sell that, shadowing and light effects on these miniatures. So I do spend quite a bit of time. We're going to go through all the steps and all the different colors just to show you how I did it. I really love painting this way. It's more of a painterly way of painting, not so fine detailed paint job that I do in a lot of my miniatures. This is more fun. And I just want to kind of have a fun little set of crew members that I could add to my my ship. So now we're going to move to the Pablo. And I really speed up the camera here. It's the same technique as the last two stages. I just wanted to speed it up a little bit to save time on this video. But again, less of the orange. We're not going to go all the way around. But more focused onto the one side of the miniature because that's where it's going to be the brightest. Make sure you hit the bottom deck. Want to carry that over onto the bottom where he's standing onto. That's kind of like the planked base that comes with these miniatures. And it's like kind of matches the planks on the ship base. So I'm really giving it a good... what I'm doing is the same as before, but a little paint on it. And I'm really brushing it really hard to just trying to smooth it all out so it's not so apparent. And then we're going to move to the Fire Lizard. I really like the Army Painter Fire Lizard as a color for... in between yellow and orange for any fire that you want to paint or light effects like this. That is a really good color. Definitely add it to your list of things that you should get for doing that kind of a paint job. And of course, this is not for everybody. Not everybody's gonna appreciate this kind of stuff. I know it's kind of a niche kind of project here. It's not really my usual vein of terrain building, but it's definitely in the Blood Plunder vein, and it's kind of I wanted something different and unique than I've done before on all my other projects, and this ship's really going to stand out on the game table, and the crew, different than all the other stuff that I've done before. So dynamic yellow. Oh boy. Anyways, bright yellow. Let's just call it the bright yellow. And you can see I'm really just touching little bits of it because now we're getting to the really bright colors. a little bit on his scarf, just kind of everywhere you think. Maybe that other bit of his hand, the front of the base here. Just kind of adding where I think the light's going to hit first. And we're just kind of adding that color in. Again, like I said, I really like doing this style of painting. I really just thinking maybe I should just paint all my miniatures this way. It'd be the quickest army ever. But it's somewhat satisfying painting like this. It's just, I feel like I'm always having to stay within the lines. All right, so that's that sand golem. And again, I call it the great equalizer because it blends things nicely. And I kind of added it to the dark side as well to add a little bit of color to it. Now we put that brown, real brown and bark brown, or sorry, fur brown. So there's a little bit of color on that side. So it does catch on that sand golem you put on there. It's kind of an interesting color. And I hit all the opposite sides. You can see I'm doing the cannons at the same time. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. And then moon dust is like the brightest of brights. You just want to really just touch a few areas here. You don't want to go too crazy with this color because it's ridiculously bright. But it's like, again, another tone to show off the brightness of the lamp and these guys next to it. So that's pretty much it for the light effects on the miniatures. Again, I just focused on the one guy. I used the same techniques on all the other guys and the cannon as well. All right, so this is a game I played, first game of for the Summer of Plunder, and I used this sloop in it. So after they're all painted, you can see I've added some of the mixed crew in there. I got some of the different colored light effects crew and my regular crew. But it doesn't matter. It looks good on the game table, even if you're just using your painted miniatures on it. It's a nice colored chip. And I just want to show you the whole battlefield. I kind of used a whole bunch of my light effect terrain. This week was fortifications. So, I had to go over the top with a big palisade fort. And I was playing the English defending against Blackbeard. So I had Maynard in his little fleet there. Little fleet. He had a bark. But he was defending this fortification against Blackbeard and his little fleet of ships, which included that Bermuda sloop that we built today and painted on the channel here. So I just wanted you to see what it looked like on the game table, in gameplay, in use. And I really like the way it looks. It looks really menacing and looks real mean on the table. All right, so that's pretty much a wrap on this episode. Just a reminder, make sure you submit for the English on the Summer of Plunder. And thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode.